things that you've found. I just jumped between mid-levels and 4-day. What's the difference between a mid-level and a 4-day, and where does that fit into the sequence of a disciple, the development of a disciple for you these days?
Yeah, we made a mistake. We went from L1-2 training, which is evangelism, basic discipleship, and a little bit of church. We would jump from there to mid-level. So what we were doing is teaching tools and then jump into assessment. And there was a big piece missing. It was called biblical foundations for the tools that we're using. So we had these out of order. The order now is come in, do an L1, L2 training, basically getting people to discipleship in church, very fundamental, rudimentary stuff, and get them doing that several reps, and then come back and do a 4-day intensive where it's all the biblical foundations for what we're trying to accomplish. Then the mid-level would come after that, and the mid-level is let's start addressing problems, stockages, So it's a problem-solving training event versus trying to get the biblical foundation. And what we're finding in the States is that people that have that biblical foundation practice with a lot more competence and confidence and commitment than they do when they don't have that foundation, which makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
that makes good sense. Yeah. Do you have an outline for a 4-day training?
Yeah, I do. I can send it to you.
Okay. And then mid-levels, 2 days still? 2 days, 3 days?
Yeah, about 2.5, 2 days. Yeah. And all of this can be adjusted, 4-day intensive sounds like a lot of time to a person that's got a full-time job working 80 hours a week. So maybe you divide that up this weekend and then 4 weeks later, another weekend.
Yeah, no, I think that's the case. I mean, when we were doing our initial rollout training, we were kind of going tactics, tactics to share gospel, tactics to do Oikos map, and interleaving that with CPM principles for Luke 10, Acts 2, church, that kind of thing. We were trying to do that, but it really, I don't know whether it worked really. We weren't then doing enough on the life of the believer. So that was, here's some skills, here's some philosophy, theology about how this should work. Right. But what we were missing was stuff like abiding. And they weren't getting the basic 7 commands, or you're setting the DNA right. We just assumed the DNA was right.
Yeah. Right.
So I think just to do level 1, level 2, in which you do some tools, maybe that work on the basics of discipleship DNA, abiding, prayer, living well, and then move into biblical foundations. That might be a good order for us, because it's the tools that sort of often get people in.
Yeah.
Right. That's what attracts them to what we're doing is, we want to know how to do evangelism better.
Right.
And so most often people are hearing, we say we're here with the holistic discipling paradigm that can take you to church. And what they hear is they're going to help us share our faith.
And grow our church, which is a great motive, Yes, we want to help you do that, Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
And when I say we, I'm talking about me and you and a whole bunch of other people. We have learned so much in the last 7 years. And one of the things that we're learning is that one training event doesn't do it. They've got to have multiple touches hearing the exact same thing. And this is for me, I need to hear it multiple times before it clicks, And so we're really pushing here in the States and South America 3-touch trainings where you get your L1, L2, 100% is done that by the outsider coming in and training. But the second touch, maybe 50-50, where you're assisting. Third touch, the outsiders are just watching and helping, train trainers for real instead of an isolated training event that they see one time and they're scratching their head. Well,
Yeah.
That goes for L1, L2, a 4-day intensive, and mid levels.
Yeah. No, I think that
3 touches.
that makes good sense. I mean, I had a fairly strong reaction regarding the 411 because it was people trying to cut this down to 1 hour, and my experience tells me that trying to communicate those 3 or 4 skills in 1 hour, vision for gospel, what, who, then what, and then follow up in 1 hour. I actually think it's not possible, and I've said this before. I mean, I tell people, look, you've got to do this multiple times. Given what you're learning now, what do you do with the 411? Are you still doing 1 day?
Yeah, and but now 411 with an individual, you can do that in an hour. But with a group of people, I'm going to take them out. So there's 2 hours in itself, just alone. I'm taking them out. So the 1 hour, sorry, Troy, I changed it to 1 hour or 1 day, So what I really like to do is I like to train them in the morning with the 411 paper, take them out at lunch, come back and eat lunch and do a debrief, and then teach them the first command using the 3/3 process and give them the template. So now they have enough so that they can share their faith. They're praying for the lost folks. They got vision. They've seen it done. Hopefully they've done it. And they have a basic format if somebody says, yes, I want to follow Christ. So I can do that in a full day of training. About
Sure.
9.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's kind of holistic. And one of the things I discovered in my last lot of research is that the people who continued to do faith sharing actually had a paradigm shift in their understanding.
Yeah.
They got some of the content of that 4-day training, whereas those who didn't continue to share faith, they basically didn't get the paradigm shift. And I think it takes, people think, oh, we know the Great Commission. I think most people actually don't know the Great Commission. I think it's almost inexhaustible, to be honest with you. I've been in that passage for probably 25 years now, and it's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible. So I think it just takes, it can take hours, and then reflection on your current context and what does it say and what are we doing, and then what are the costs for us to actually go from what we're doing to where we should be. I mean, and if you don't give people a chance to do that, they'll say yes, nice training, and then they'll just go back to what they were doing before.
Yeah.
Nothing will change. That's our observation. I want to ask you another question. What we've been finding is that the idea of going out into the harvest and actually visiting people in their homes has, for some churches and groups, become too scary. Okay, so we've had a number of situations where we've trained, and we talk about oikos. We get them to draw oikos maps, but the scariest thing they did that day was go and visit a neighbour, and that's all they remember. That training is about visiting neighbours. It's so frightening.
Yeah.
And then they forget all about oikos.
Yeah.
They forget about being strategic for oikos. A few people might come along within a church group or a people group and start saying, oh, I think we're invading people's personal spaces by actually going and knocking on doors. I think that's possibly even counterproductive for the gospel. Are you really sure you should be doing that? And it's been scary. And then the people who haven't attended say that kind of thing. And even though people might have gone out and had a good time, next time it comes around for us to go and take them out or do something, man, you've lost 75% of the group or even more.
Mm.
So I've been thinking Australia has unmined oikoses. Basically, we're not mining our oikoses. You know, it's just, you know, I have a little dabble. I'll share with 4 people or 5 people, but I'm really not sharing with the 20 people I know pretty well, the 30 people I know pretty well, or the 70 people I know pretty well. You know, it's just a little bit and then, okay, done that. Or it's a bit scary. Now, I put my hand up here as well. I could go deeper. I've already gone pretty deep in my oikos, but I could do some more. And we've been thinking of going, right, we won't actually take people out into the harvest. We'll actually get them in coaching teams and get them practicing what they'd say to their friends. And we'll get them into accountability groups so that they work hard on working on their oikos. And we'll not only work with them on working on visiting a friend on their own, we're going to ask them, how can you work together as a team? Because there's a strong individualist kind of a bent that's come through some of the training we do that doesn't actually help people to work well as a team. So, and we've done a small amount of this, and we have no patterns we could really produce. We've just got some that have proven to work. We've got some things that we've done. I don't know. Have you got any thoughts about that side of things or any experience in that space?
They're just thoughts, though. Okay, so take it with a grain of salt. The first question I want to ask is, if we just focus on oikos during that first training event, would the percentages of people sharing the gospel be higher, the same, or lower? What do you think?
Well, I know what the right answer would be based on my personal bent, which is this. My personal bent is that there's a synergy between talking to strangers and talking to your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And my statement, my position has been, if you're not talking to strangers, you're probably not talking to your friends. Because it turns out that it's actually too easy to talk to a stranger than talk to a friend. Okay?
Yeah.
Once you get down the track,
yeah,
it's much easier,
yeah.
you know? So that's my personal position, but in the minds of the people we're training, some of them, it's a bridge too far. And I'm wondering, well, I just let those guys go and work with the people who are prepared to have a crack with strangers and have a crack with their oikos. Just look for those ones. Are they in the end the obedient ones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's the right answer. I don't know. But my gut tells me that you're probably going to have the same percentages. You know, people that would go out with you and talk to a stranger, and people that would actually take the training that they received and go talk to their friends, family, and coworkers. So I have a story to kind of illustrate this. Paratroopers is an antiquated, ill-fitted way to deliver masses amount of troops on the battlefield today. And yet the Army spends millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars, training 400 paratroopers a week in the United States Army today. And it's not about the delivery system, because it's antiquated. You know, we have special forces jumping into certain situations, but whole battalions and divisions, that's not happening. The last time that happened was Korea, and it happened one time, and maybe Vietnam one time. So why is the Army spending all this money on an antiquated tactic? Because it builds something in the soldier that is more valuable than the delivery system itself. It builds courage into those soldiers. They have to jump out of an airplane with a parachute. And the Army has figured out that character trait that you can build in 3 weeks by just throwing a guy out of an airplane is worth every penny. And so, to me, we're finding the courageous, the people that are not only willing to work through, I'm going to go talk to a stranger. They're having to work through their paradigm and all this stuff, and they just swallow a big gulp and say, okay, if this guy says this is how to share the gospel, I'm going to do it. And so we're really finding a lot of, not a lot, we're finding a few people that will be willing to share the gospel no matter what their circumstances are. So that's my gut. I think that gut feeling should not prevent us from trying different techniques and seeing if we can tweak those numbers a little bit more and see if we can't get more people sharing the gospel. That would be a huge win. So we should try. But I think the House of Peace search up front, as confusing as that is to the process and as scary as it is to people, has intrinsic value. So
Yeah, fair enough.
My opinion.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that we find sometimes is that when you do find those courageous people, they've had a tendency to focus then on the person of peace search more than on their oikos.
That's the confusing part. Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you mean by the confusing part? Yeah, okay, I get you. Yeah. And I'm constantly saying, hey guys, no, look, you've already got a set of relationships. Let's keep working on that. And because the person of peace search is so consuming, it's like jumping out of the airplane. It's so consuming. You haven't got time to kind of worry about my neighbor across the road or what have you, because I know that Saturday I'm going to go and knock on doors, and if I'm going to have time to deal with that, I can't really bite this one off. So anyway, it's messy, I think. But I hear what you're saying about the courage, and a number of us have found what you say to be correct. There's a strange synergy between the two. I have been a big believer, but I think that there might be for some people. Your question, could we get more people into the harvest? There might be some people who so value partnership and community and working together on things, to teach them how to run a barbecue in their house, have a few friends over, and have someone share their faith or share a testimony as part of a planned night. Hey, listen, we're actually going to do this as a Bible study. Someone's going to share something, or, as a church, to actually have that kind of thing happening as well.
Yeah.
Within Oikos, which is more attractional, might not be necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. Hey, any way the gospel gets presented is a win.
Sure.
But the gospel's got to be presented. Here's an idea that we've been toying with in our L1, L2 training. We're giving them 3 options. One, you can go out with us and knock on doors, because we know that people leave those initial trainings because, hey, I'm not going to knock on doors. So we give them 2 more options. Hey, you can go to a friend right now and go share your story and come back and tell us how it went. So you don't have to knock on the door of a stranger. Or you can make a phone call or a video or something where you record your story or tell your story over the phone or on Facebook, social media, where you just got your story out there. So call a friend, post it on Facebook, whatever you want to do. And you can work on that while we're out there knocking on doors. So we're giving more options.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's helpful. Are you, how many people actually go with you out into the harvest then? when you do that? What is it?
It's funny, and when you first say, "Hey, we're going out," man, very few people want to sign up for that. But when we tell them, "Hey, all you have to do is watch. We'll do all the talking," and then it's like more than half the people say, "Okay, I'm in, as long as I just watch." Now the trainers are so savvy that they'll do it 2 or 3 doors, and then they'll say to the people that are with them, "Hey, you think you could do this?" "Oh man, that was easy." "Yes, of course." So now they're in the mix, you know. So
Sure. Cool. All right. Well, hey, Chuck, it's been an hour and a half or so. Thanks very much. Well, actually, nearly 2 hours. Thanks
yeah,
for sharing all your insights.
well, hopefully they're valuable to you and the others. So we'll just keep muddling through this thing together.
Yeah. I think from my interviews, finding out where people are up to, each one is quite unique where they're at, and each one has got a different next step. So there's not a uniform set of issues dealing with these 15 particular interviews. There are some similarities of context. For example, one thing I've discovered that's recurred as a theme is the mobility of Australians. So you get partway through a discipling process and then someone changes their location. And because we don't have lots of people responding, that has a significant impact on the continuity of the discipling and then the possibility of multiplication because they're taken out of the immediate geographic area. So sometimes you have a look and, wow, the oikos has actually worked, but the oikos has become highly distributed and therefore the next generation has been stunted through distance.
Yeah.
And then there's the other chestnut of just the extraordinary busyness of people. That would be your case as well. But I don't know whether it'd be the same with the mobility of the harvest.
It depends on, in the military, they're dealing with that. They move every 3 years. Collegiate, same thing. So I don't know as far as general populace, though. But I want to do another interview where I'm interviewing you with all your findings. So when do you think you'll be able to collate all your thoughts?
Well, I've got to produce a result by mid-December.